Chair now recognizes Dr. Foxx from North Carolina for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Carnahan, in the post-pandemic era, many businesses in the private sector are downsizing office space since so many employees are working remotely or adopting hybrid schedules. It's been reported that about 52% of companies are planning to reduce their office space over the next 3 years. These same changes are also affecting the federal government. As I'm sure you're aware, the Government Accountability Office noted that 17 of 24 major federal agencies headquarters in the D.C. are less than 25% occupied. How much does GSA spend annually to maintain and operate office space for federal agencies?
Thanks for that question, Congresswoman. We talked about this a little bit in the first session. We have a federal buildings fund is where agencies that have space in buildings or have leased space pay rent effectively.
Right.
And so that amount every year is around more or less $11 billion.
$11 billion.
And that's just rental payments. So
Rental.
that's different than your question, which
Right.
was about how much we spend.
To maintain.
Right. So what happens is that federal buildings fund actually is shorted every year in what we're allowed to spend. So typically what will happen, about half of our portfolio is leased and half is owned. And so for the leased portion, that rent just immediately goes out the door and pays the owner of the building, right, in whatever the community the building is in. And the other half is meant to go back into maintenance of the buildings.
Okay.
What's happened over the last 12 years is that portion has been basically siphoned off to pay for other things.
Okay.
So that's why we haven't been able to reinvest in buildings as much as people are paying
Okay,
rent.
that's not my issue. If 70% of a major federal agency headquarters are only 25% occupied, I believe we can find substantial savings by downsizing office space. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
All right, with potentially billions of dollars wasted each year on underused assets, what is GSA doing to save taxpayers' money?
Yeah, thanks for that question. We take this very seriously. I could not agree with you more that we have an opportunity to really save billions of dollars for taxpayers.
Okay, so let me follow up. So how are you determining when it's necessary to downsize office space?
So our team has done a portfolio-wide review, national portfolio review, to figure out which buildings we should keep and which buildings we should dispose of. I think that this is a huge first step. We announced last week already that 23 of those are going to be put up through the disposal process. Just those 23 buildings is a reduction of 3.5 million square feet of space and a potential in cost avoidance, and again, this isn't even talking about the value when we sell it, of over $1 billion. So we are eager to work with y'all to get this done.
Ordinary American small businesses in corporate America cannot afford to pay for space they barely use, let alone help the federal government pay for its unused space. So how quickly is GSA going to push agencies to consolidate office space based on the study you just mentioned?
Well, we are working with agencies all the time as they're rethinking how much space they need. And so that's an important thing that the team does every day. In the end, by the way, we don't force them to make a decision. They have to decide based on their mission how much space they need. But we try to give them alternatives. You know, one of the things that we're seeing nowadays is when people are in offices, they want to work a little bit differently, right? There is collaboration space, there are meeting rooms, there are other kinds of configurations rather than individual offices that make more sense. And so we're really working with agencies on that.
I have one more question I want to squeeze in. If DC-based federal employees, including yourself, choose to telework a majority of the time from lower-cost areas in the country, should they continue to receive the additional 32.49% locality pay increase for the D.C. area?
So the issue of locality pay is something that our HR department thinks about all the time to make sure that the taxpayers are getting the value and that people are getting what they
So how much would taxpayers save if teleworking employees were paid the wage that corresponds with their actual location of work?
So I think that's a question I'll have to ask for OPM, because I think they are better suited to be able to answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we need to pursue these issues that have been brought forth by Ms. Carnahan and see what Congress can do to force these agencies to downsize and save taxpayers' money.
Absolutely, we will. That's the mission statement of this committee, and look forward to working with you, Dr. Foxx, on that. Now,